What is up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Huddle Hub Podcast. I'm your host, Metal Mike, and tonight we're going to talk about the teams heading into training camp. Today is day one of all the teams reporting to training camp. All 32 NFL teams have officially reported, and I just wanted to come on here and give my full analysis, my thoughts of day one of training camp. But before I do, I want to ask everybody to please head over to all the Huddle Hub Podcasts social medias over at the Huddle Hub Pod on X and on TikTok, as well as hitting the subscribe button right here on the YouTube channel. And if you're here on the Twitch channel, make sure you're hitting the follow button. If you are not on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/the Huddle Hub Podcast. If you go over there and hit the follow button, you can also check out our profile, and we have all the links to all of our social medias right there. And it will lead you to everything that you need to hit the follow button. Hit the follow button on and help us build the channel heading into the 2025 NFL season. So today, day one of NFL training camp, and man, a lot of news was breaking. A lot of news was breaking coming out of day one of training camp. Now, yesterday we got some news about Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans, and he's going to be out for the whole 2025 NFL season with a shoulder injury. He's going to be getting shoulder surgery, and it was announced that Cam Ward will be taking all the first-team snaps. Okay? And me and John have somewhat of a discussion to talk about when we come back on next Sunday, because the Huddle Hub Podcast will not be live this Sunday. I have plans. It's summer, and it's the only time I can make some plans with family. So we're not going to be live this Sunday. We're going to be live next Sunday, though. But we're still going to talk about the Will Levis stuff coming out of Tennessee. Me and him had a discussion off live but we're still going to talk about it on the show because it's part of the news. But not only that, some players decided to call it a career. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, after 12 seasons with a few teams like the Chiefs and the Saints, has decided to call it a career. Jimmy Graham, the tight end, decided to call it a career. This is all coming out of day one of training camp. Now, there's no word on whether these guys showed up and made a decision right on the spot, like, hey, you know what? I think this is it. There's no word on that. And do we need a word on that? No, we don't need a word on that. If this is a decision that they made well before training camp started, then, you know, much respect to them. That's their privacy. That's their personal decision. And they want to move forward. They feel like their career is done. So we wish Tyrann Mathieu and we wish Jimmy Graham the best and a happy retirement here from the Huddle Hub podcast. Now on Sunday, me and John talked about some players getting contract extensions, like a TJ Watt, a Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. But there's some players out there that are either rookies. Shamar Stewart, the only first round pick that has yet to sign a contract, show up to camp, anything like that. And now there's a lot of talk about him possibly going back to college for one more year. Now, he was seen at Texas A&M working out, but when you don't sign an NFL contract after being drafted, if you don't sign your contract, you can't go in the facilities. You're not contracted by that team yet. You just got picked. That's it. It's under your own discretion whether you want to sign that contract or not. So the Shamar Stewart stuff is still up in the air coming out of day one of training camp for the Bengals. But that's not all. Trey Hendrickson, the all-pro pass rusher, has yet to come to an agreement. Not at training camp. On Instagram, he has a picture posted of him on a Florida highway right now. He's in Florida. Nowhere near the New Orleans Saints facilities for training camp. So a few months ago, I should say, coming out of the draft, I had said that the Bengals need to get everything in order if they want to be successful. They took care of things on the offensive side of the ball. They locked up Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Joe Burrow, of course, has already been locked up. But the defensive side of the ball seems to be an issue for them. All in the while of you're trying to get accepted to do upgrades to your stadium and get all this money for this stuff. How about putting the guys that are under contract on the field? You are one of the high-profile teams right now in the NFL, a favorite to be raising the Lombardi Trophy in February, and your defense is not intact yet, which baffles me. And Shamar Stewart, who's supposed to be a game changer when it comes to the linebacker / edge rushing position, not in your building because you don't want to give him the guaranteed money that is technically due to him for the position he was drafted in. And then you want to alter the wording in his contract. This kid's excited to be in the NFL, ready to come play in the NFL, play for your team specifically. But it's all on you on making him happy and having him in your building and putting your uniform on and being on the field for you to be that game changer. Same with Trey Hendrickson. the season sack leader last year, and you can't come to an agreement with him? Again, I said it a couple months ago. The Bengals, they are a team that just needs to get things in line. And they could be the team that raises the Lombardi to start this decade of Super Bowls. Because we are now heading into the 60s. We're done with the 50s. The Eagles raised it at 59. Now we're at the 60s. It's a whole new decade of Super Bowls. I don't see why Cincinnati wouldn't want to be that team to be doing it first, to be raising that Lombardi trophy that says Super Bowl 60. I don't know. It baffles me. It really does. They went out and cut defensive tackle Dante Barnett. Zach Moss was put on the PUP list. Cincinnati is really making me eat my words right now. Really. About what I said a few months back after the draft. Because I have a lot of high hopes for the Bengals. I do. I'm not a Bengals fan. But to be the unbiased podcaster that I am, I kind of open my mind up and kind of open my heart up a little bit for other teams just to be fair and be able to come on and talk about teams in a positive way and not wear my Philadelphia Eagles goggles because I am an Eagles fan. Because that's what we do here is talk positively about other teams as much as we talk negatively about other teams. John's a 49ers fan. But he'll sit here all day and talk positively about the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Ravens, other teams. He talks positive about the Seahawks, and they're in the NFC West. So we're going to be fair about it. But the Bengals just need to get things in line. Or their hopes. I mean, you can't control the Zach Moss injury being on the PUP list. Guys get injured. And we never wish injury upon any players. None whatsoever. So the Zach Moss injury, let's exclude that from conversation. But when you look at everything else that's going on in the camp for Cincinnati, Shamar Stewart, Trey Hendrickson, you just cut a defensive tackle in Dante Barnett, trying to pull up Dante Barnett's statistics. And he's a defensive tackle, somebody that could have possibly came in and helped out your defense, especially with what you're going through right now with the Trey Hendrickson situation. And Barnett's a rookie, by the way. I'm going to put that out there. He's from Birmingham, England, sorry. And he signed with the Bengals back in May as a participant of the International Players Pathway. Kid could have came in and been something and help you out on your defensive line while you deal with the Trey Hendrickson situation. Just saying. One last thing, though, the Bengals just need to get things in line. That's what I got to say. To be a team that's going to be playing January, a team that wants to play January football, that thrives now to play January football because they got one of the best offenses in the NFL. They got to get their defense in line. They do. They have to. Over in the New Orleans Saints camp, Tyrann Mathieu and Jimmy Graham decided to retire today. Both announced their retirements. We do wish them the best in their retirement here from the Huddle Hub podcast. Well wishes to them, and hopefully they enjoy their retirement. They've both been in the league for a very, very long time. But they decided to call it a day, call it a career. And does it surprise me that we're going to start seeing players make this decision right now? It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't, not at all. Being a football fan and somebody that studies this game legitimately every day, it does not surprise me. And I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a very good way. Because it's a common thing to see players make this decision sometimes a week into training camp. Sometimes they go in and see if they can, go through another year. It's grueling. It's a grueling process. Not only during the season, during the off season, it's grueling for these guys. Because they still have to make sure they're in meetings and working out, showing up for things. It's not like they get to go home and sit around for 6 months for the season to start. So it's not going to surprise me if we start seeing other players that have been in the league for 10, 11 years say, hey, you know what? I gave it a week. I don't know if I can make it through another camp. I don't know if I can make it through another season. Because these guys' bodies get beat up. So now the Saints have to think about what they're going to do as far as filling the void with Jimmy Graham, which I'm sure they have intact. And they got to figure out what they're going to do as far as filling the void of a Tyrann Mathieu. And we've seen, the beginning of the year for the Saints last year was great. Highest scoring team in the NFL. But then we've seen the downfall of the Saints throughout the year. It was tough. It was a rough thing to watch. So looking at the roster right now as far as for the Saints, for the tight end position, they have Seth Green, Michael Jacobs, and Juwan Johnson. And Maliki Montavio, Jack Stoll, Trayton Welch. It's not a bad tight end room. And then you go over to the cornerback position, and I believe this team is stacked at cornerback. I would, Dalius Beanham, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Rico Payton, Jaden Price, Quincy Riley, Alontae Taylor, Rajon Wright, Isaac Yiadom, Ugo Amadi, JT Gray, Jordan Howden. I mean, this team has a pretty good defensive back room. Pretty good situation when it comes to the D-back room. So they're good. They're good. But the other thing I want to talk about tonight is the PUP list. And me and John talked about this slightly on Sunday's show about this PUP list. And if I'm not mistaken, how the PUP list fully works is if you end up on the PUP list, you got to sit for at least 7 weeks minimum. And then the extension is the extent of your injury. And you're seeing some big names, big names, end up on this PUP list fairly early. Now, some of these players, are they going to be back by the time season starts? Yes, but some of them, you're hearing that their season's over, or they may not be back until October, November, December. So, as the weeks go on, and these players on the PUP list, they start figuring out what's, going to occur as far as positions, like who's going to play with these guys on the PUP list. That's my big question is what if What if a guy is on a PUP list, a big-time starter's on a PUP list, and a backup guy steps up and starts doing miraculously? What happens to the starter that's on the PUP list if he comes back? Is he going to take over? I mean, we've seen it last year in San Francisco, where San Francisco pretty much found their gem of a running back with Christian McCaffrey being out. And McCaffrey tried to come back and got injured again. But McCaffrey was deemed the starter the minute he was able to come back. I think teams should look at that and say to themselves, you know what? I understand you're on the PUP list, you're coming off, you're deemed cleared and healthy and ready to go. But maybe we figure out a scheme to where we put you in so often, 20, 30 plays, 30, 20, 25 snaps a game for at least the next 2 weeks to get the motor running, and then we take off. Just to make sure that you are fully clear, because the 49ers didn't do that. And McCaffrey legitimately got hurt the game he came back. McCaffrey was good to go, and it was like, okay, let's do this. Let's go. Let's go running. And it just did not work. It didn't. And then look at the extensiveness of Christian McCaffrey's injury after that. Now, there is word that Christian McCaffrey is good to go. He's healthy. He's doing great in training camp and camps and all that stuff, the mini camps. He's running smooth. But the big question is how is he going to be when it starts to get full contact? Because of the CBA rules now, these guys, they can have live practices, but they got to be careful because they try and reduce the injuries. So these guys don't really fully live hit until they get in game positions, game situations. So the approach of some of these players on the PUP list, I think, should be taken slightly differently when it comes to just inserting them into live play after being out for 7 weeks. In the Patriots training camp, Stefon Diggs, he has a knee injury. He's been cleared to practice. Head coach Mike Vrabel cleared him. Head coach Mike Vrabel said he's good to go. So Stefon Diggs is going to be good. He's coming back from his ACL tear that he suffered back in October. So, I mean, that's really good news for the Patriots. And really, really good news for Stefon Diggs. So now the question is going to be is how Stefon Diggs going to perform for New England. Because some guys, they get these ACL injuries, and we've seen it before, where they don't come back the same. Kirk Cousins last year. He gets injured his last year in Minnesota, goes to Atlanta, and even says he knew that his recovery it was full, but he felt different. Felt different. Go watch the quarterbacks documentary on Netflix. He mentions it. So now he's the backup in Atlanta to Michael Penix because nobody wants to pick up Kirk Cousins' contract. And he can very easily go to a team that needs a starter right now. Because when you look at the teams and their starting quarterbacks at the moment, we're going to just try and run down this list real quick, okay? 32 team starters. The Eagles have Hurts. The Giants have Russ. The Cowboys have Dak. Commanders have Jaden Daniels. 49ers have Brock Purdy. Seahawks have Sam Darnold. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. And the Rams have Matthew Stafford. Okay, that's the NFC East, NFC West. NFC South, Falcons, Penix. Saints, right now, the rookie that Tyler Shook. Okay, so Tyler Shook is a rookie. So that could be a place that Kirk Cousins might be able to go. New Orleans. Well, let's look else. The Buccaneers. They have a starting quarterback. Panthers. They have a starting quarterback. Then we look at the NFC North. Packers. Vikings. Lions. Bears. All have starting quarterbacks. So in the NFC, Kirk Cousins, the only real team he would be able to go to that he'd be able to possibly help out is the Saints. Because Tyler Shook is deemed the starter at the moment for the Saints, with Derek Carr going into retirement. You look at the AFC. We'll start with the Chiefs. Quarterback. Raiders have a quarterback. Chargers, quarterback. Broncos have a quarterback. Okay. Patriots have a quarterback. Bills have a quarterback. Dolphins have a quarterback. Jets have a quarterback. That's 2 divisions already. Every team has a quarterback. And at AFC South, Texans, quarterback. Titans, obviously Cam Ward, rookie. The talks about the plans of Will Levis being the starter, but now saying Cam Ward is going to take all the number one snaps. Maybe the Titans. Maybe we'll put them in there. Okay. Jaguars have a quarterback. And the Colts. Colts might be another one. Anthony Richardson hasn't been too promising for them. This is basically a hot seat year for Anthony Richardson, I think. And me and John will get more into that as we go along here with our spotlight segment. But maybe the Colts. Then we get into our last division, the AFC North. Steelers. They have Rodgers right now. Ravens have Lamar. The Browns. Browns are a mess of a quarterback room at the moment. Bengals have a quarterback. We'll put them out right there right now. But the Browns, they have a mess of a quarterback room. They have to decide what they're going to do, and they have to decide quick. Right now, Joe Flacco is being deemed the starter. So let's, for all extensive purposes, say 4 quarterbacks in the quarterback room for the Browns. So right now, if you look at it, Kirk Cousins could go to the Saints, could go to the Titans, can go to the Colts, can go to the Browns. One of those 4 teams. One of those 4 teams. But then we look at the salary cap, okay? Let's look at the salary cap for a second. And see if these teams would be able to afford said contract. Because when you look at the salary cap of some of these teams right now, it's not too promising. So the first team on the list that we'd be looking at is, let's say, the Colts. Okay? The Colts right now are in the negative right now when it comes to cap space at negative $16 million. Browns, negative $17 million. The Saints, negative $8 million. And the last team I said, the Titans, Colts would be the last team I said. I said the Colts. I said the Browns, the Saints. Colts. Okay, Titans. Titans are the last team. The Titans are negative $2 million. So all those teams would not be able to eat that contract. None whatsoever. Because they would have to be paying at least a quarter of that contract to have Kirk Cousins in the locker room. But if any of these teams were to make moves, they have to do it now. Get Kirk Cousins in your building and do it now at the start of training camp so he can get used to your system. That's that. But I was surprised by all the news that was coming out today. All the news that was coming out today. Nyheim Hines. He's been out of the league for 2 years. 2 years. Gets signed with the Chargers. He was out for 2 seasons. And he was ready to come back too. Ready to come back. Now he's with the Chargers. That running back room for Los Angeles, if they did not start putting packages together today with everybody in that building to run 3 running backs who could be premier and have a 3-headed monster at the running back position, I don't know. Because the Chargers are fairly in the good position of being one of the top running teams in the league. After bringing Hines in and the 2 running backs in the building already. Najee Harris, Omarion Hampton. Come on now. Come on now. And I'll say this. There's a couple wide receivers out there that are available. Top one right now is Keenan Allen. Now, there's a lot of there's a lot of word about him being out there right now, and there's 5 teams that would be favored for Keenan Allen to sign with, and that would be the Chargers, Steelers, Chiefs, Raiders, Browns. One of these teams need to get him in the building. I'm talking tomorrow. And I have a good feeling a Keenan Allen announcement will be made tomorrow. But we'll have to see. But for the most part, looking at everything that's coming out of all the other teams' training camps, yeah, everything looked like it was good. Everything looked like it was a very solid day one for all the teams in the league. Just some announcement about some retirements, some guys ending up on the PUP list. So the season has officially started. This is it. Training camp day one is in the books. And we are 9 days away from kickoff for the Hall of Fame game. 9 days. And when I look, the team that has the most players that got put on the PUP list today is the Buccaneers. And I'm very high on the Buccaneers this year. I have a lot of belief the Buccaneers are going to have a great season. Quarterback Michael Pratt, backup. Wide receiver Chris Godwin. Guard Sua Opeta. Tackle Silas Zanzi. Tackle Tristan Wirf. Nose tackle Desmond Watson. Linebacker and Anthony Walker all went on the PUP list today. All went on the PUP list today. That is heavy for the Buccaneers going into this season with the expectancy of winning the NFC South this year and going into the playoffs. It's heavy. That's huge. We'll have to see what happens moving forward, but day one is in the books. And the season has started, and I am excited. So excited, I decided I need to go live today. I need to go live tonight and just talk about day one of training camp and the excitement coming out of it. Because we had a lot of news come out today. Now, there's some news that I saved for when me and John are back live at the end of July and next Sunday, July 27th, or I'm sorry, August 3rd, because we will not be live July 27th. August 3rd is our next episode of the Huddle Hub podcast. So we're going to have a lot to talk about on August 3rd. With that being said, one more time, everybody, you can please head over to all the Huddle Hub podcast social medias on TikTok and X at the Huddle Hub Pod. If you're watching here on the YouTube, Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on the Twitch channel, make sure you hit that follow button. And over on the Twitch, all of our links to all of our socials are in the profile. Please go to those socials now and hit that follow button. It would definitely be appreciated as we build the Huddle Hub Podcast channel heading into the 2025 NFL season. If you want to follow me on social media, Metal Mike 714 is where you can find me. Instagram, X, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitch, Metal Mike 714. With that being said, again, the Huddle Hub Podcast will not be live this Sunday. We will be back on August 3rd with our Spotlight segment being the premier segment of the day. We are going to finish off the NFC side of things with the NFC North and the NFC South. So come join us for the Spotlight segment next Sunday morning, to do our Spotlight. Until then, be good to each other, be kind to each other, take care of each other, be patient with each other. The world is not moving as fast as you think. Until next time, deuces.